So we're still working on the atmospheric landscapes project, and last week I did a little bit more colour. I thought what I'd do is perhaps add a little bit of pastel to, so I can't remember which one I started last week, but it's one of the watercolour ones. This is I'll show you, this is an example of one of the ones I worked on this morning, was the demo. So basically watercolour landscape, and then I do a little bit of pastel, breaking up the textures. I'll do a little bit to that. The other thing is there's a couple of books there that I'm getting rid of. So if anybody would like any art books, I am clearing a few out. Probably more coming in the future. Just need to make a little bit more space at home. So please, books and magazines to go there. Got one or two materials here for sale, which I'll have in the class, ongoing. Things like painting boards, things like painting boards and palettes, paper palettes, one or two sketchbooks, so if everybody wanted to get some books there. So for sale. We've got Lee Art Trail coming up soon, so the 5th to the 13th of July. I've got the maps are here if anybody would like the maps. So that's in a couple of weeks' time, and I'll have my work on show at Millie's Deli again. So I'll be showing you a show. Next year I'll probably have a break on it, so if you want to see the work that I've got at the moment, yeah, come and have a look. Yeah, I think that's that for a minute. And I'll probably have a class, a break for the summer, perhaps about a week or so after the art trail, so probably mid-July. I think it was about the 16th, I was thinking for about a month, so I'll take a month out. I'm back. In the past I've gone a bit longer, I think I did about 2.5 last year. What I might do is have a little break in September for a week or so, but I'll have a month, stop for a month.
Well, you're getting cocky now, aren't you?
What, take a break? Yeah. Well, I need a bit of time. Catch up on having a holiday, working on commissions, things like that. Right, so this one underpainted just in some watercolour, but I find sometimes I don't quite get the effect I want. So you've obviously then got a choice of either going back in, and I could possibly re-dampen this and work into the sky and things like that, but the trouble is there's quite a lot of different colours that could get disturbed there. So another approach is to work in pastel, add some pastel to it. So areas that I wasn't quite able to work in. So with the lighter colours, I find that the pastels get quite grubby. So I want to just make sure they're nice and clean to start with. Just thinking there's a bit of a yellowish glow here. So I could possibly put some of that in, perhaps blend that in with my fingers a little bit. And a little bit down here. I've got quite a nice lot of white there already, but I could perhaps soften the edge of these clouds a little bit by just popping that down and just softening it out with my fingers. Getting these kind of sun ray effects. Again, that's going to be easier with pastel to just kind of draw that in. I'll just soften that bit there.
Is that watercolour underneath, Paul, or is that all pastel? Is that watercolour underneath?
So that's watercolour so far.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
then I was thinking like a bit of pastel over the top. Things like softening these sort of edges out, because I can then blend those in. So it's quite nice. Whereas sometimes the watercolours, I get so far and it isn't quite how I want it, or I want to make some more adjustments. I can then just pick up the texture of the paper. And I find both pastels and watercolours quite difficult mediums on their own, but sometimes working them together, you can create some quite interesting effects. That's a little bit of shadow down here. You can soften that out. So I can use either my fingers or a blender to work these in. Get some slightly stronger, more dramatic look to some of the clouds. So, I personally think that helps. And then things like all these textures down here, they can be quite good to just make some extra marks. Maybe pick up the texture of the paper a little bit here and there. I'm using the chalk pastel, but you could use the pastel pencils. Got those. Just adding little suggestions of the textures in the water. And we bring some of these highlights out again as well. So I think it can add another dimension. Probably needs a little bit more watercolour underpainting on that style. But yeah, quite an enjoyable way to work. Any questions?
Nope.
Right, okay, yep, I'll let it go. If everybody wants to borrow the pastels, I've got the pastels there. Try that. Yep.
Do you have to use fixative over the top to keep it?
Yeah, you might need to, yeah, it might be good to, or obviously frame behind glass or something like that. Yeah, you possibly would need to use fixative, yeah, 'cause it will move, yeah, it could then move. I quite like that, I quite like the way it picks up the text with it.
Yeah, glass is more effective.
Yeah. Probably needs a bit more around, perhaps a darker background there.